Hello my 3D printer peeps, I'm sitting next to a brand new Creality CR-10 SE. It is time to set it up and run our first test print. There are a few additional steps compared to older models of the CR-10 3D printer due to the fact that this is the first CR-10 equipped with the Klipper Nebula pad running Creality OS. With the CR-10 SE, there is a G sensor built into the Hotend, so we'll run some calibrations for that, as well as the auto Z offset done with the Hotend's strain gauge and the auto bed leveling done with the included pre-installed CR Touch. The CR-10 SE also has wireless capabilities built in, so we will be connecting this to Creality Cloud for wireless printing and print monitoring. Before starting your first test print, I'm going to show you 3 manual calibration items worth noting. The first one is your bed belt. I want you to feel it. Make sure it's not too loose or too tight. It should feel springy and trampoline-like. If it is, for some reason, super loose, turn the knob in the front clockwise. If it is super tight, turn the knob in the front counterclockwise. The bed should move freely and smoothly. The second is the belt for your Hotend. This bed is adjusted slightly different than previous Creality machines, where you would find a similar knob to the front on the end of this bar. Instead, you will now find this small adjustment screw. Using an Allen key, you will turn it right to tighten, left to loosen, doing the same process as before. Feeling the bed with your finger, if it feels super loose and floppy, we will tighten it up. If it feels slightly tense like a springy trampoline, you're good, leave it like that. The Hotend should move smoothly back and forth with ease. If it does not, please loosen the tension. If it feels floppy, tighten the tension. If the Hotend is difficult or firm to move, it's too tight and I want you to loosen it up till it's smooth. The final item, and this one is actually noted in the manual, is the eccentric nut on the Z-axis, and I'm going to use the built-in LED light to help illuminate it, further demonstrating the value of this awesome addition. According to the official documentation, they would like you to be able to pinch this wheel and freely turn it. If it is really tight and hard to turn, you will loosen the eccentric. If it is really loose and overly easy to turn, you will tighten the eccentric. You do that by placing the included wrench over the eccentric nut and turning down to tighten, up to loosen. You may adjust this using your best judgment. If you cannot turn it, it is too tight, place the wrench on, make it a little touch looser, try again. If you can now turn it with your fingers, it's good, leave it alone. I don't want it so tight that you feel like you might move the printer by turning it. I want it to move somewhat freely while still feeling some rubbing up against this rail. Those of you who have a Nebula camera or plan on getting one in the future will also be able to create time-lapse and monitor your prints through Creality Cloud via their website and the Creality Cloud app. The first thing we're going to do is turn on the CR-10 SE. One of my favorite things about the CR-10 SE is the power button being moved to the side of the printer rather than behind. Flip the switch to 1, which is on. You will be greeted with the pleasant sound of your CR Touch test and the Creality boot process. You will notice the bright light of the built-in LED. We can switch it off and switch it on, and you can see the difference this little light makes. Go ahead and choose your language. I will choose English and press Next Step. You will check this box and press Next Step. Now we will set up our wireless connection for cloud printing and monitoring. Choose your Wi-Fi and insert your password. Mine is Greg Adventure. Insert your password and press the check button. Press Next Step. Now we are going to choose our time zone. I will choose Eastern Standard, that is my time zone. We are now going to connect the CR-10 to our Creality Cloud account. If you do not have one, now would be a great time to make one. With Creality Cloud installed on your phone, open it up and go to your workbench. In there, press the plus button and choose Add Device. Scroll down, look for the CR-10 SE, touch on that, check this box, touch next again. Your camera will open up, hold it to the QR code on the CR-10 screen, and it's time to type a name for your CR-10 SE. I will name this machine Anna Lee. If you know who this is a reference to, let me know in the comments. You will then be presented with your list of printers, and here you can see my CR-10 SE named Anna Lee, and it shows the printer is auto-detecting. Let's move along. Back to your CR-10 SE screen, press Next Step, and you will see the machine is already prepared to start its auto calibration. We will go ahead and press Start Detecting. This is going to go ahead and begin the auto Z offset and auto bed leveling process. Notice we had nothing to do with bed leveling knobs or pieces of paper. As you can see, it looks a little dark, so let's turn on the included LED light. During this process, you will notice the machine alternate between strain gauge and CR touch. Using the strain gauge, the hot end will literally tap the hotbed with the nozzle itself. Don't be alarmed, this is normal. This is how it sets its Z offset. It then switches to the CR touch, where it will create the auto bed leveling mesh. One of the things you will notice with the CR-10 SE is how fast and how smooth it moves. Once the auto bed leveling and Z offset are set, the machine will begin using the G probe to calibrate vibration compensation. You will notice the hot end vibrating like crazy. Again, this is normal. During this process, it's extremely important you do not touch the printer and you do not touch the desk that the printer is on. And the machine says, self-test complete. At this point, you can go ahead and press OK. Congratulations, you have set up your Creality CR-10 SE. Let's return to Creality Cloud, refresh your workbench, and you should see your CR-10 SE is now marked as online. Let's jump into the screen and check out a couple of settings. Here is your basic Nebula pad Creality OS Klipper interface. Let's go ahead and click on the gear. Here you can set your screen brightness. To me, the default brightness looks good. Let's check our always on display. It's set to go to sleep after 3 minutes. I think that's ridiculous. So I'm going to press 5 minutes, and preferably, I would actually rather, for me personally, no setting, which means it will never go to sleep. My language is English, my beep sounds are on. Here is your equipment self-test. This will do auto leveling and vibration compensation. We already did that, so we will not do that again. However, at any point, should you feel the need to rerun those calibrations, you may do that. I also suggest rerunning those after firmware updates. We are bound to Creality Cloud, and here is our firmware. You will see the little red dot next to the firmware indicating there is an update available. Simply touch on the arrow, and you will see the machine indicates a new version is available. The current version will be shown with the new version shown below it. Below that will be the updates available in the new firmware. It talks about increasing the responsiveness of the screen, and number 2, adding the ability to print detailed historical information for your records. That is super cool. Let's go ahead and install that now. Depending on the time you watch this, your firmware update may be different. However, looking at the version available at the time of filming, it shows 2 interesting updates. To install this new firmware, we will touch download. Once the firmware has downloaded and installed, it will automatically reboot the Nebula pad. Alright, it's time to find out how the machine did running its own auto bed leveling and creating its own Z offset by printing our very first model. While I'm not a fan of pre-sliced G-code files, we will go ahead and use the sample included on Creality's USB memory stick. For this test and this test only, I will be using the sample hyperfilament that came with the printer. Let's go ahead and install our filament. It's a very simple process with a slight difference from previous machines. Take your spool of filament, slide it over the spool holder of your choice, and feed it through the filament runout sensor. It should go through smoothly and easily. With the filament through the filament runout sensor, locate this lever on the Sprite SE and simply apply pressure to depress it. Then insert the filament into the hot end and slowly guide it down. It will go down quite a ways. When you feel it stop, let go of the knob, and you're done inserting the filament. In the past, this would be the end of the filament loading process. However, Klipper offers an extrude function which will prime the nozzle, clearing it of any previous colors or debris, and we will go ahead and do that now. Before we prime our hot end, if your hot end is sitting all the way down on the hotbed like this, it's a good idea to raise it. We will use the Nebula pad to do that. Make sure you are on movement. Choose the denomination of movement you'd like. You will see my movement options are grayed out. That is because it would like me to home the machine first, so I will go ahead and press home. The machine's insistence to run a home command is likely because it had just finished doing the calibration. Then go ahead and press home Z. It will bring your Z to the center of the bed. You will see you have three options to move it in 1 millimeter, 10 millimeter, or 30 millimeter increments. I'm going to choose 30, and you can now press up to move your hot end 30 millimeters. If you'd like to move it up 60 millimeters, simply press it twice. 90 millimeters, 3 times. And there it is. Our extruder has primed the hot end. You may notice what came out didn't quite look like white hyper PLA. There's likely some residue in the nozzle or the heat break from the testing process. So what I'm going to do is change the extrude length to 10 millimeter to purge the nozzle of whatever that leftover filament is, leaving us with clean white hyper PLA. And there we go, a nice clean white looking stream of white PLA. I will go ahead and gently pinch it off. Those of you wondering about time-lapse and AI detection, you will need the Nebula camera, or if there is any other compatible camera at the time you are watching this video. To access those functions, you will click on the gear, and you will click on camera. In here, you will find settings for time-lapse. Under camera settings, you will see enable time-lapse photography. If this switch is on, all of your prints will automatically create a time-lapse video. You have two options. The first one is your standard time-lapse to create one image at the beginning of each layer. The second is for it to move the hot end out of the way before each image. This creates those time lapses you have seen where the nozzle is not in view. This will increase the length of your print considerably and may even create further risk of print failure. I would suggest using the first option. You may back out and you'll notice AI detection. These are defaulted to off because I do not have a Nebula camera. If I did, you could turn these on by simply touching the slider. You'll see it didn't allow me because I don't have the camera. If I did, turning these on would allow the printer to use the camera to monitor my model and create warnings and automatic stopping should the print fail. Hidden also in this screen is Motion Advance. Motion Advance is only supported when using Creality Print and requires LiDAR. LiDAR is not stock on the CR-10 SE, however it is available as an optional upgrade. If you do not have LiDAR and attempt to activate this feature, it will tell you LiDAR is not detected and return to the off status. On the side of your Nebula tablet, you will see two USB ports. Simply pick one and plug your Nebula camera or compatible camera into it. Prior to making this video, I gave my very best effort to obtain a Nebula camera so that I may include that process and show the time-lapse and AI features and video monitoring in this setup video. However, I failed to secure one, so we will move forward without it. I did, however, test Creality's SmartKit camera and several Logitech cameras to no avail. Perhaps updates in the future will add compatibility, but at the time of this setup, they do not. For this test print, take the USB thumb drive that came with the machine, open the cover, and stick it into either of these USBs. Be careful, USBs only fit one way. This is the one and only time you should plan on printing from USB on this machine. Please consider learning how to work with the Klipper interface or Creality Cloud to print wirelessly using today's fancy toys and modern technology. Insert the card, turn the machine on. Should you remove the card with the machine on, you will get a prompt. Should you insert the card with the machine on, you will get a prompt. It is okay to print from USB thumb drives. However, this is the old way of doing things, and I really suggest you learn the newer technology, printing wirelessly, which is one of the toys that you get for paying extra money for a fancy printer such as the CR-10 SE. To print from this USB thumb drive, touch on the folder icon. In there, switch over to the USB drive tab. On this page, you'll see they've provided some sample files. Mine has 3. Interestingly, one of them is a filament guide. The other is a scraper, and the first one is everybody's favorite thing, a Benchy. By the way, this is what the scraper on your USB stick looks like. It printed very nicely. However, on your PEI bed, a scraper like this is not something you will need very often. However, occasionally it can help to deal with a difficult skirt, brim, or purge line. It claims the Benchy will take 14 minutes to print. Let's go ahead and find out. Keeping in mind, I've done no manual adjusting or calibration to this machine at all. This is straight out of the box, having run only the ABL, vibration compensation, and auto Z offset, which the machine does by itself. If this Benchy completes successfully, this is a very impressive feat and a huge leap forward in ease of use for bed slingers. Before I start the first print, I'm going to use a spray bottle with IPA and spray down the bed and give it a wipe because I don't know what this bed's been through during my build process, the manufacturing and testing process, and shipping. Press the button. You'll see a nice icon of the model you're printing. The calibration box is checked. Since this is our very first print, I am going to go ahead and leave calibration checked. Should the print be successful, I will uncheck it for future prints until I feel a need to run it again. And there you have it. We have successfully set up our CR-10 SE and printed our very first model. I am not a huge fan of G-codes sliced by other people, including the manufacturer, maybe even especially from the manufacturer. However, this Benchy, pushing the CR-10 SE clearly at top speeds, came out fantastic. I am extremely impressed. This build, setup, and test went far better than I expected. Many people had questions about why the CR-10 SE exists, why it's the same size as an Ender, and why do we need it. However, when looking at the CR-10 SE and considering all of the upgrades and features 3D printers have long wanted and attempted to mod into their Ender and CR-10 printers, the CR-10 SE has all of them and more. I was skeptical if a bed slinger could make this kind of giant leap with the speed claims Creality is presenting. I was skeptical if these new bed slingers could print fast successfully at all. However, I'm here to tell you, it most certainly can. This Benchy was printed in 14 minutes with absolutely no manual calibration on a printer that took 15 minutes to build. If you watched this video because you own a CR-10 SE, congratulations to you. It looks like a real winner. If you are on the fence and watching this video to decide if the CR-10 SE is for you, here's some evidence that it just might be. You're on the 3D Rundown YouTube channel. I'm Greg Adventure, your instructor at 3drundown.com, and setting up the absolutely jacked CR-10 SE Creality 3D printer was today's adventure.
Hey,